We are alive. Okay, so I know I said that my last video was the last one, but this is just really renting space in my head, and I need to get it off my chest. So I definitely made some major mistakes in the video I made about Gabor Maté and Jordan Peterson and where he went wrong in his response. So we're going to break that down a little bit for you, and I just need to take responsibility for the mistakes I made and move on. And so I can go have a good vacation for a week. I just need to get this off my chest. So I'm sorry for sending you so many notifications if you're getting them from us today. And I hope you can understand, and you won't be getting too much for the rest of the week. Mercury, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
So I made some important mistakes in this video. First of all, I opened up the video without establishing a scientific premise for my argument. If I'm going to come out against a thinker in the public, I should be prepared with evidence right off the bat to state my beliefs and back them up with specific evidence. So if I'm going to say Mate's beliefs on trauma are invalid and I don't agree with them, I need to be able to immediately also support that claim. Dr. Roger Strachan, my mentor, slapped me around very lovingly and highlighted some of the mistakes I made in this video, that being one of them. At the end of the video, I attempt to provide some more scientific validation, but it's done loosely. And really what happened was that the whole video was done in a hurry, and I didn't realize the effect it was going to have. I didn't realize the cultural charge of the argument and the whole conversation. And so I kind of went into it naively and thought, oh, I'll just make this fun video. It's Saturday morning. I just saw this thing I didn't agree with that Gabor Maté said, so I'm just going to hop right in and make a video. And what I really should have done is really gotten all my evidence together, really taken the time to prepare. I had like a loose couple notes that I wrote, and I think it was a fun video to make. It was a good video. A lot of people liked it, but there's some real problems with it. And honestly, when I look back on it, I could have done a lot better. So that's the first thing.
I would like to go back to the very, as you started all of that, I just want to point out that I think you worded something there out of habit, like it's the way people would say it naturally, but I don't think, it may not actually be what you mean, and it's certainly not what I ever mean. So you said, just your wording was, I came out against Gabor. And yeah. I don't think you are, just notice that's common phrasing, but I don't think in any way you are against him as an individual. And for me personally, I am not against anybody, even just whatever evil person you want to pick. I am not against them. I want the best for them. And so just right off the bat, I would just point that out, that even though you said you came out against him, you were interested in
his ideas,
back on specific ideas, and in no way are you against him.
Yeah, you're right. That's horrible wording. I came out against some of his ideas, and I did it in a way that I could have done better.
You don't even need to frame it as far as against. I had a different perspective on things that I wanted to share.
Yes, that's right. That's a better way of putting it.
You don't need to.
It's just it's just become such a conflict-oriented thing in my mind now because of the way I thought about it, and the way when Dr. Strachan approached me today and said, listen, you made some mistakes in this video. And he walked me through the whole thing. He walked me through the I haven't even talked about the ad hominem that I didn't even notice. I didn't even think of the fact that what I said about Maté was an ad hominem. At one point in the video, I said, come on, Maté, you're a doctor. You should know better than to be diagnosing people publicly. So then there I'm just doing the same exact thing I'm criticizing him for, because I'm saying, you're a doctor, you should know better. So I'm using an ad hominem attack on him to criticize him for ad hominem on Peterson. So it was just hypocrisy at its finest right there, and I regret that. I didn't even know, I didn't even reflect on that in that moment. I thought I was totally vindicated in saying that. I thought it made logical sense. And it was a little bit convoluted, and I think I could have done better on that end. So there's just certain things here that I screwed up, and I agree with you, Mercury, that the way that I'm framing it as against versus just having a different perspective is a better way to frame it. The other thing, like, go ahead.
You can acknowledge that even if you disagreed with everything he said, we can still look at this as not being against him in any way. He's given you the opportunity to define your own view of it by presenting us with his ideas. So in no way is there any against here at all. This is you working with his ideas and interacting with him, or with his ideas is how we can frame this. It doesn't need to be conflict-based at all.
Yeah. And I think maybe I think that I'm in a conflict-based state because, well, first of all, I've been pretty reactive to some of the comments today, which I'm still working on how to deal with comments. There were some pretty nasty ones that came out, so that kind of put me in a state of mind of frustration. But the other reason is I think I just think I'm kind of jacked up a little bit right now. So I'm in this state of almost there's a little bit of an adrenal response to the whole situation because it's been stressful for me to go back and criticize what I've done.
And also, like, I want to make it clear that I understand there is a value to conflict. There is a value to competition, and all of those things that I was saying we don't need to express. I'm not saying those aspects of ourselves aren't valuable, aren't productive, aren't a part of everything overall. I tend to be very feminine in a lot of ways, like the traditional trying to be inclusive, very as opposed to competition, cooperative based, naturally. But there is the value to the other side as well. However, we are trying to create the more cooperative atmosphere here on Sorting Myself Out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I thought about after doing the video, which I posted it in my goodbye vacation video a couple hours ago, is that I think the way that the video was framed caused more of a conflict-based setup, because then it very quickly became us versus them rather than like, let's look at these ideas. And yeah, I think I set that up. I think I set up a platform for us versus them, and I didn't necessarily mean to do that. That wasn't my intention. My intention was, well, really what happened was I was, in my bed starting to fall asleep, but I was flipping through YouTube a couple nights ago and I came across that interview with Maté, and that wasn't the first Maté interview I'd seen, and that wasn't the first time I had disagreed with where he's coming from. So I started ruminating, thinking about it, thinking, okay, what do I think? How would I respond to what he's saying? Because I don't agree with it. And so the next morning I woke up and I couldn't get it off my mind. I was still thinking about the ideas, and that's kind of how my brain works. I get very preoccupied with certain ideas, and I said, well, I'll just make a video about it. And so I took a few notes. These are the things that I disagree with. These are the fallacies that I see in Maté's argument. And so I edited a video and made a video in less than 2 hours. And the problem with that is this is such a serious subject, talking about trauma and the difference between what validates trauma-based action versus what's just inherent in other ways. How do we divide that discrepancy? Where do I disagree with Maté? Because these are huge ideas. And I was listening to a Peterson talk yesterday, and one of the things he says is when he wrote Maps of Meaning, he rewrote every sentence 50 times. In the book, every single sentence, he rewrote it 50 times. I didn't do that. I went, I didn't even come close to that sort of critical thinking. It was critical, but it wasn't critical enough. And so I set myself up to be in a position where I wasn't fully prepared for the argument that I had with the ideas. And then I also set up this place where there could be online conflict about it. So if I could do it again, I think what I would have done is, felt, okay, I don't need to make this video right this second. It's a very good idea for a video to respond. And I should really take some time to think about the video. I should call Mercury and say, Mercury, what do you think about this idea? How should I do it? Here's my rough draft. So while a lot of people did like the video, And I'm glad for that. And there was a lot of positive comments. I just need to hold myself to a high standard when I'm putting out content about ideas that are this culturally important. And so man, it hurts to it hurts to be wrong on that end. You know, I don't think I'm wrong about my ideas. I think that my ideas, I still stand by the ideas, but I'm wrong in the way I went about it. And that is a bad feeling, but it also is good for me to be aware of.
Okay, you can frame this like you just made all the mistakes that you just outlined.
Right.
And you can frame it that you shouldn't have done this. On the other hand, okay, with trying to engage in his ideas or with his ideas, you pursued that and made some mistakes in that. But this is you earning your knowledge one step behind that. So take a step back from these particulars of what the video was. You are trying to learn how to interact in a more integrative way, to take on, like the IDW's working on good faith, honesty, improving how we have discussions. You're very invested in that and learning an integrative approach. This is the way you learn things. This is what Peterson means by earn your knowledge. You can't just read up on all of this shit and know what it's about, because when you learn something and you try to apply it, it is exactly this that gives you the actual embodied understanding of it. Is you attempted to engage, and by doing so, you identified a number of things that you were doing automatically without even being consciously aware that you were doing it. You framed the whole thing in a way naturally without being aware you were doing this. And it's not just your fault. You've picked this up culturally. This is how we interact in many ways. So you could look at this as a huge success in learning how to embody and earn the knowledge of a more integrative and cooperative discussion.
Yeah, I agree. And again, everyone, I'm sorry for posting so many videos today. I know it's probably, it could be annoying if I was on the viewer end of things. Some people might like it, but yeah, I think you're right, Mercury.
I don't think you need to keep apologizing for how many videos you
don't think so?
I don't. And again, somebody can give us feedback later, but like for any channel I'm subscribed to, if they put out tons of stuff at one period where I don't feel like watching Rogan, I just don't watch it. Yeah. But I've never thought like, but there are times where I go to some channel even that posts a lot, like Timcast, and I'm like, I was in the mood for something new, even though I've already watched 4 today. So I don't know.
Tim Pool posts all the time.
Yeah, we'll just do videos when they happen, and people can watch as many as they want or not.
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't apologize for that. And I'm not even apologizing for the Gabor video. I'm not apologizing. I'm not even really sorry that I made it. I feel like I've screwed up. I don't feel like I hurt anyone. I don't feel like I owe anybody an apology. I think, but what I do owe is to take responsibility for my mistakes. And
yeah, let's get specific about that then now, because I talked about the further back. Now let's step back into it. And why don't you outline for all of us the specific mistakes that you now recognize after talking with me and Dr. Strachan?
Okay, I'll even review the ones I've already said. So the first mistake that I made is I came in with a claim against, I have to reframe that now. I came out with a different perspective than the one that Maté had. And with that perspective, I didn't provide enough scientific validation for that perspective up front at the beginning of the video. And so I didn't set up the premise properly, which is not a great way to make a case. Okay, so that's a flaw in argumentation. The other mistake I made is I criticized Maté for his ad hominem attack against Peterson, and then I proceeded to make an ad hominem attack against him, and I didn't notice. And that ad hominem attack was, you're a doctor, you should know better than to be making up a public diagnosis, you know. And the part you should know better because you're a doctor. That's the personal attack. It's creating this, you're a doctor, you know, and you're not living up to that, is basically what that's saying. And that's an attack. Now, what I could have said better is, I don't think that it's a good idea to publicly diagnose. And here's why I don't think it's a good idea. And here's where I see flaws in this. And so that has nothing to do with saying about Maté personally, but I made it about him personally, which is ad hominem. So I was hypocritically doing the same thing I was criticizing him for doing, which is like, really? I didn't notice that? I didn't reflect on that in the moment? No, I didn't. I totally went over my head. So again, I should have been more prepared. That's the third thing. I wasn't very prepared. You know, I had a thought. I was like, I should make this video. I got inspired, and I thought it was just another fun video to make. You know, like a lot of the videos I've made have been spontaneous. Like, oh, I have an idea, I'll just do it. The problem is, when we're talking about ideas that are this big and serious, it's important that it's done in a methodical way, because once it's posted online, it's online and everybody has access to it. So it's important that the ideas are rooted and prepared in a specific way. And I kind of free-formed it and had a couple notes in front of me and went off the cuff. Now, the other part is what Mercury is helping me realize is the way I framed the video was more conflict-based than it had to be. You know, I disagree with Maté on this, and I framed it in this way of setting up almost a competition between ideas, rather than, this is my perspective over here. This is what I'm working on for sorting myself out. This is the ideas that I'm wrestling with. Here's the value I see in Maté's work, and at the same time, here's where I struggle, and this is where I diverge from that path. So it could have been a little less fiery and a little more love-based, I guess, is one way to put it. So, and then I wouldn't have exiled any, because people who like Maté's work are now going to automatically hate that video. So I should have given Maté a little more credit for certain things. I think I tried to do that at the end, but I could have done a better job. So those are my criticisms against myself.
And I think that's fantastic. Like, we put far too much pressure on ourselves to have the proper output, to be doing it properly. Whereas what you're doing right now, you may not be giving yourself enough credit. It's a lot of people would, with that reaction, double down and get sucked farther into the aggression. And it's very difficult to look at ourselves honestly and to see when we're making mistakes. It's very hard for us to see when we're being hypocritical. Our mind often has just a natural defense mechanism of instantly trying to justify the original action so that it can just dismiss that perhaps we've been wrong or hypocritical. And so one of the most important things to learn in life is how to do what you're doing now. Because if you can just stay in this mode for the rest of your life, you're constantly going to be getting better and learning.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Strachan was we were on the phone. He's such a good guy. He's so nice to me. And he just has really taken me under his wing and mentored me and made himself, anytime I want to talk to him on the phone, he picks up the phone. He spends time with me. He holds my hand through topics that are hard for me to understand in psychology. And he was just telling me, like, he was just laughing at me in a loving way, saying, listen, like, Ryan, if you're going to come out with these ideas, you got to be prepared. You know, you're coming out, your trauma is a huge idea. And a lot of people are attached to having a specific viewpoint on it. So if you're going to come out with a different perspective, you better be ready. And you weren't ready, man. You weren't ready for it. You didn't have the scientific validation on site. You didn't back it up enough. And he said, you got to be more prepared than that. And then he proceeded to tell me like 5 different stories, because he's like he loves telling stories. So he told me all these stories about lessons he's learned in his life. And so, yeah, it's, you know, it's like, if you want to talk to someone in the big leagues, you better be, you know, you better have all the evidence that you can. And I didn't. So lesson learned there. And thank you to you, Mercury, and Dr. Strachan for helping me to see where I fell short and lovingly and caringly holding me accountable to that.
Yeah, and I think Strachan will do a good job to push you and be like, smarten the fuck up. And, you know, like, really, if you're going to do this, do it right. But at the same, then since he's providing that, I'll be here to also be the yes, and also be loving and compassionate with yourself along the way. Because it's, just like that clip I'd asked you to put up by Eric Weinstein that you haven't put up yet, but you will at some point. Like, you owe us your struggle. You don't owe us success. So, like, you're actively struggling to do the best you can with this. And yeah, you owe us the struggle. So everything Strachan said, take that on as much as you can. But when you do make a mistake, or if you're not living up to what you want to be living up to, just, you don't owe any of us success. You just owe us trying your hardest.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's really meaningful. And Strachan, I'm doing a filming with him next week, and we're going to talk about his theories. And one of the things he's going to do with me is kind of on tape, on video, show me how I could have set up that whole argument more accurately and done it in a way that would have been conducive to the most success possible. And we're going to do that and then post it to all of you. So I don't know how long that video will be, but he's going to walk us through some of the, and then he'll walk us through, because a lot of my argument in that video comes from my training with him. A lot of the things that he's taught me, a lot of the research I've done with him. So it'll be good to hear it straight from his mouth. You know, he's much more, he's got, 50 years of experience. He's in his 80s. He's been doing genetic research and psychology and therapy since the 60s, late 50s. So he's definitely got a lot. He's got an arsenal of ideas and evidence to back up his claims. So that will be interesting for sure.
And did you want to tie into this, your live stream this morning as well? What we'd already talked about?
Oh, yeah. There was a point on the live stream where somebody was commenting, and Colton and I were kind of laughing, like, out of this reactivity. And then one person was like, hey, don't laugh at people writing a comment. And then I, immediately apologized, because I realized, oh, shit, like, this person's expressing an idea that Colton and I don't agree with, and us laughing can be very, seem like we're laughing at them and we're kind of discounting them as a person. And really, like, the reason I was laughing was because I thought the idea was like this racially biased idea or something. So it just seemed so ridiculous to me that I started laughing. But then I looked closer, and his idea was actually different than that, or their idea. I don't know if it was a him or a her, but basically just like learning as I go is the point of sharing that, as well as, as I do all this live streaming, posting video content, I'm just making mistakes left and right. And I'm sure that some of them I haven't even been aware of, but, I apologized. And then it turned out that his ideas were different than I had thought. So.
Yeah. And so I didn't catch it live because it was this morning while I was asleep. But when I was watching it, when I think it was Potato was the name of the person commenting. Yeah. So when Potato did make the comment, I felt the same thing that I forget the other person's name, but when someone wrote, hey, don't laugh at that guy, even before I read that, I did have the same sort of reaction. But then when I saw someone post that, and the way you immediately said something like, yes, sorry, you're absolutely right. And I loved the way you just immediately took like, you didn't double down or get defensive about that. You realized that you'd made a mistake. And I thought it was beautiful to see the way Potato continued to contribute. From there forward, you listened with a more open mind.
Yes.
And even further down, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Potato, before leaving the conversation, said that they subscribed. So that was beautiful, the way you heard the criticism immediately. And then you had just such an open mind from there forward. You weren't trying to prove being right in the first place. Like, you weren't looking at his next statements, just scanning for something to discredit him with. And the one thing that you could just notice that you didn't do was you reacted instantly to one way that it could be interpreted. Whereas language is so limited, especially with small comments like that. And we always have the option of giving, just choosing the best interpretation, the most charitable interpretation of what they said, and work off of that instead of choosing the worst version of it.
Yeah.
So you can look for, well, where might I be reading this wrong? And just, if someone says something that can be taken two ways, if you assume the better of the two ways first, you're not going to hurt somebody that's reaching out with something genuine. And then if they double down and get worse, then at least you gave them the chance first and were listening with an open mind and trying to give as charitable an interpretation as possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and it's on a live stream. People are commenting so fast, and so the response time is like, so it's not an excuse. It's just, my instant reaction was to laugh at that comment because it seemed so silly to me. But then I quickly realized how that could be perceived as hurtful. So I backpedaled, and now that person has subscribed, and they actually even said, like, thank you for responding to all my comments. And they seemed to feel connected to us in some way. So Andrew Jokum commented here and said, "You're learning from your mistakes. We will watch you evolve and sort yourself out." Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you, and I know you can relate. So thank you.
And also, none of this is me criticizing you. Like, I'm just discussing, and even because it's really just, I didn't approach you telling you you did anything wrong.
No, you didn't. It was
you didn't like the reaction you got. And so I'm giving you ideas of how you could have done things differently. But I'm not saying that you did things the wrong way at all. I'm just discussing other options that might lead to other outcomes.
Yeah. Gloff is here. Matthew Nolan Miller is here. Says, I agree with what you seem to be saying. If you're making a logical or science-based refutation, you should be well prepared. But if you're expressing an opinion, you should make that clear. Yeah, totally. So, yeah. Shit. Yeah, it's just man, there was some nasty comments today too. That also took a toll on me. I need to figure out a system for dealing with comments because it's just so difficult to read all the comments because I really want to respond to people because people are putting thought into our content. But if I look at the comments, I have to read all of them, and that means I have to read the really big insults and some nasty things that are said that are just flat out hurtful. And yeah, there's nothing else to it other than that.
There's a lot of fucking great comments as well.
Oh, yeah.
But those don't stick with us the same way. Like, what sticks, the negative ones.
Yeah.
It's so much harder and you remember them.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, there's a lot of really, really positive, loving, supporting comments as well. Just our brains are more geared to notice the problems over what's going well.
Yeah, actually, there was a lot of great comments. Hey, Grizz. Hey, Gloff. I see you're commenting here.
Oh, and with Griswold, I saw his comment on your live stream about something Jordan Peterson said in 2017 in a Q&A. I'm really interested to hear that clip. I did try briefly searching a couple of his 2017 Q&As, but I didn't find it. So if anyone does have a link to the clip Griswold was talking about, I'm interested in seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so I guess, Gloff says, what were the comments? Yeah, under the Gabor Maté video, I don't know, one guy just went off on me, like wrote like 10 different comments today and he just basically told me I was the fucking scum of the earth, to put it in light terms. So it definitely didn't feel good to read. But the thing is, it got me thinking, like, okay, like it did get me thinking about where I might have gone wrong in the video. Although I was kind of thinking about that anyway, and Strachan did call me and make that clear as well. He definitely was the main person who helped me see places that I went wrong in the video. So Yeah, I mean, comments are comments. They're always going to be there. I mean, the good ones, the bad ones. There were so many nice comments. There were so many people who liked that video. I liked the video. I watched it after I made it. I thought it was fine. But, you know, sometimes you can't smell your own shit, and there was some shit in it for sure. So I'm becoming more aware of that. I still stand by what my beliefs are. I still believe what I said. I just didn't present it in the best way possible. Now, some people said, that was fantastic. You're great at analysis. You're great at figuring this out, or this is a great picture of what's going on here. I absolutely agree. I'm so refreshed. So I'm not saying that the video didn't have value. What I'm saying is that it's not up to my own standards as far as, and I think that it's not totally fair to put out a video with a critique on someone's work without taking like a full day or so to prepare. Not just like, oh, I feel like making a video about Gabor Maté. It's like that guy's been working on this is his life's work, you know, and I have several disagreements with it. However, let me give it the time it deserves, you know, and that Peterson video that I watched where he said he rewrote every sentence in Maps of Meaning 50 times helped me realize that too. It's like, I don't need to post it right away. I could have taken a week to make that video. So, yeah.
And I just still wouldn't beat yourself up over it too much. You did have something to say. You didn't present it. Like, I think you were trying to present it more neutrally than it came across, that you fell into framing it in a conflict way without choosing to.
Yeah.
And the same way that I said with other people, you can give people the, you know, benefit of the doubt that they meant it in the best way. And maybe some of the people who commented positively underneath, but people could also do that for you watching that video. They could give you the benefit of the doubt and assume best intentions as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. I think like it's great. The amount, like, learning how to do this isn't easy. And again, not even specifically with interacting with those specific ideas. One of the things we're trying to do at the channel is sort of help lubricate communication. Like, we both felt that things are too conflict-based to begin with. And we wanted to create a more inclusive, cooperative space for even very different people.
Yeah.
To do that requires making mistakes in doing it. Like, that's the only way to get better at something. So from that perspective, you doing this video, I think, has taken you a long way in learning how to engage properly with these ideas to get the kind of reaction we want, because we don't want to be turning people against each other. We want to, as much as possible, be bringing people together.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the other things I mentioned that's difficult is because I'm studying psychology, I'm going to develop opinions on certain topics, such as trauma and such as addiction and alcoholism. And not everyone's going to agree with them. And so, but I'm still going to say them, you know, I'm still going to, and I'll do my best to provide the most objective information possible and call myself out if I'm full of shit, like trying to do today. And again, I don't think the whole video was full of shit. I'm just very specific elements of what I did, like I've said, just for context. So yeah, I mean, I don't I'm not pushing back on what you're saying at all. I'm just saying that inclusivity, yes, and being an individual and sharing my ideas is automatically going to make some people not like me. And that's just like always going to be the case if I have an opinion on anything. Don't you think?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. Why do we have to assume that just because you will develop ideas or have ideas that other people don't agree with, that means they won't like you?
I don't know. It just seems to be the way people respond.
You're picking up, that's the natural pattern we've seemed to develop here. And like, look in society, the way everything is us against them and who's right and how do we look at it. Right down to like politically, the left and the right are just constantly arguing as if they're trying to change the other side into being the same as them. Like a lot of people act as if America's been trying to figure out whether it should be the right or the left that we live by. But the truth is we need to live through the cooperation of the left and the right. And at least for me personally, this channel is not about us all agreeing with each other. No. This is about how can we all have our own opinions and still love each other, work cooperatively, listen to each other. Because with so much of this, like, first of all, we're going to talk about who's right or wrong. Is Jordan Peterson right or wrong? Is Gabor Maté right or wrong? Are you right or wrong? Then the answer is we're all fucking wrong. When people swear on the Bible to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, like everybody's perjuring themselves after that. How the fuck do you say you're going to tell the whole truth about anything? None of us know the whole truth of anything.
Yeah, I certainly think that's right. Yeah.
We're all fucking wrong in some way. And the greatest perspective, like if there is a perspective that is actually right, like a meta perspective, that is beyond us. And we all need to be aware of that. And I think there is value to all of our experiences. And so there can be ideas that appear to conflict with one another from our perspective, and perhaps they each contain their own truth and can be seen from a higher perspective. So I would like to have a space where people can totally disagree with each other on some things and still like each other and still wish the best for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And couple comments here. I think the nature of, Matthew says, I think the nature of reaction videos limits how deep you can go. Personally, I'm not a fan. Watching this self-reflection reminds me of its value, but we need to be careful not to overdo it. Okay, so that's a really interesting point. Yeah, there is a way, like in 12 steps, we call it morbid self-reflection, where you're constantly ruminating on yourself and criticizing yourself. So it's morbid. It becomes almost like this self-criticism and self-pity and nihilism. So that's a really good point. So just the perfect amount of self-reflection is what you seem to be advocating for. I agree with that. Like I said, and I think just to be totally fair, I think I am being a little hard on myself about the video, and I also think I need to be critical of it. So right now I'm maybe going a little bit too hard, but I think I'll find a balance of criticism and noticing where I went wrong. And generally, I think that we've done a very good job with this channel. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement, and I need to be able to admit when I'm wrong, and I want to share that with all of you, because I don't want to be inauthentic. You know, I want to be real I want you all to know like what's going on for me. If I'm struggling with this, then I want you to know about it. And this has been a point of struggle for me. And yeah, the reaction videos are a little bit weird, aren't they? So that's an interesting point.
Although maybe just by working on those things you said earlier, you noticed all the places you went wrong. Maybe you can see what, like to try to not throw out the baby with the bathwater about a reaction video. Is there a better way to do it? Like, what if as a reaction video, you framed everything out of, like, worked really hard not to make it anything about against, and to really say, this person said this. I'm not saying they're right or wrong here, but I want to talk through my initial reaction to it. So here's some things I think. Here's some things I see differently. What does everyone else think? I think I can't see how it's not possible for us apes to have those kind of conversations. We've picked up a lot of bad habits. Yeah, it's like not a discussion about who's right or wrong. Like, that is a type of discussion that needs to be had at times. Yeah. But there's also the option of just a discussion of various ideas where we're just exploring each other's experience without defining it as good or bad. Like, I'm very interested in how you experience life, what your initial reaction to something is interesting. And I can listen to you deciding the entire time whether it's right or wrong, or I can listen to you just like the way you would read a book, and you're just interested in that character's reaction to life. We don't need to define everything as good or bad as we experience it. And there's another way to have a conversation where we're exploring each other's experiences rather than judging them.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And this is perfect with what you're saying about, well, this comes back to the love and wisdom balance, the eros and logos. The eros is the compassionate love and understanding for everyone, and the logos is the discernment. And in the logos, you're like, okay, there's certain ideas don't hold up because, and this is why. So you're more focused. It's more of a discerning mechanism. And so on the academic side of things, that's what I'm working on. At the same time, we have to have this openness, like you're saying. And I think if we can balance both of those things, like discernment and acceptance, discernment and acceptance, and we take those both into account, then we have something like a true balance. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So I think with the Maté video, I went too far to one side of that spectrum, and it wasn't even good discernment because I didn't have the best evidence I could have, like I shared. And on the other side of things, if you're just loving and only accepting, then you have what some people call idiot compassion. I think Chogyam Trungpa, who was this wild guy, wild Buddhist that had a lot of his own issues, but he called this thing idiot compassion, where you have so much, you don't even have boundaries. So you're just this permeable thing that can just be walked all over. And I don't think that's what you're saying at all. I just think that's the extreme of it.
Although still, you defined it as you did it wrong when you did the video. You can define it that way, or you could say you did it right because you did it in a way that made you better. You learned from it.
Yes.
So is a video right because you did it right? Like if you made 10 videos that were all simple enough that you did them perfectly right and learned nothing from any of them, would that be better than making a video where you make a bunch of mistakes that you notice and you actually improve? So you can define.
I think you're right. I think well, I'm glad that I made that video. That's why I'm not going to take it down. I'm not going to take it down. And
then it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah,
it was
part
of the process of improving.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I could take the video down, but you know what? I liked what I said, and I pinned a comment that said, these are the mistakes I made. You can go back to the video and see in the comment section, there's a comment with a list of the mistakes I made, most of which we've gone over, and people can read that, and then they can watch this video and I'll address it here. And other people might not follow up, and they might just think that I'm out to lunch, but that's fine too. So don't you think isn't that a good place to approach it from?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Contra is super overrated, to be honest, Gloff said. I don't even know what you're talking. What do you mean Contra? You all are having some weird conversation. What's going on here? Trying to see. I guess I missed something. Colton, my brother's here. He says, Ryan, this is YouTube. You will make mistakes, and when you do it on a large channel, people will berate you about it. Yeah, well, I definitely experienced that. Don't give yourself a hard time about it. Just improve for next time. Thanks, bro. I will. By the way, Mercury said he really liked our podcast today, so there's a compliment for you.
Yeah, I did, Colton. Thanks for coming on and putting up with Ryan for over an hour. I really enjoyed seeing that, and I hope you want to come back again sometime.
Yeah, I hope so too. I really enjoy talking to him, even though he won't let me talk about psychology, which is fine. So, you're talking about another YouTube named Contra. That's cool. I got you. You can talk about whatever you want. Have fun with it. That's what the chat's all about. So, all right, everyone. So here's where I'm at. I'm going to go on vacation. I don't even know if I'm going to read comments or look at my YouTube stuff for a week. We'll see how that goes, because it can be super addictive to keep checking things every day. But, Colton says, let's do a podcast, Mercury. Without this bloke, Ryan, we will get 3 million views.
Yeah, definitely.
What a dick. That's so funny. We'll get it will get 3 million views is the funniest part.
Sounds like he has some good dirt on you that he wants to release when you're not on the call.
Probably, because he's gonna get me back for today because I kind of let a bomb drop before the end. He's funny. I think I always laugh at the shit he says. He cracks me up. I don't know if it's just because he's my brother, but I think he's pretty funny. Griswold said 3 million. Colton just wrote in a title that says Colton educates and corrects Ryan about his historical shortcomings. That would be the video name. Y'all are great. Thank you for caring enough to watch me struggle and allow me to make mistakes and still support us. We really appreciate it. And Matthew also has said maybe too much focus on acceptance leads to no improvement, or believing everything is equal and improvement is impossible. Yes, that's exactly kind of what I was saying. Yeah.
And I can't see the comments, just so everyone knows, so I only hear what Ryan says. Read that last one again, because I think that's something I wanted to address earlier more.
Agreed. Maybe too much acceptance leads to no improvement, or believing everything is equal and improvement is impossible.
Yes. And so I just want to address really clearly that, like, I am like very far on that acceptance end. And I'm very connected to that, like that end of it, whereas Ryan has far more of the logos energy, like that. And so I will often be bringing up the perspective on the acceptance end, but it's because I'm in reaction to somebody stronger in the logos and because I'm naturally tilted that way. But yes, both ends have their uses, both ends have their shadows, and that's absolutely a bias of mine, that I'm heavy on the acceptance, and I do see the shadows and the places that can take you. On the other hand, it's an amazing trait to have, to be that far that you could accept anything, because if you're ever in a situation where you have to, and again, this won't happen to many people, but if you're a prisoner of war, if you're somewhere being tortured, if you ever are in an absolute hellish experience that you have no control over whatsoever, having the ability to accept and not judge that and to shift into that is survival. So there are the rare situations where that total acceptance is a skill, but society needs the balance of both. And absolutely, without the male principle to balance the female principle, we don't stand up to the bad ideas. And yes, conflict and all this logos is very necessary part of society. It has its shadow and its bright side. I'm just way far on the other polarity, but I'm not believing my polarity is correct.
No, I think that's what makes us a good team. Like Matthew just said that we complement each other, or he enjoys the contrast between us. And I think that that's part of what makes the dyad that we are work, because we represent different types of personalities. And so I think that's fantastic. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's shadow sides to both of them. And the other thing is competition is what drives, in a lot of ways, is what drives better ideas to happen. I mean, the sciences or scientific experiments and inventions and discoveries are always competing against other corporations, other organizations, other people. And a lot of times that's what drives the next new discovery. So there is something valuable in the competition of ideas amongst the landscape, but there's also the side where we need to pump the brakes a little bit. And this channel isn't about competition. Let's just get that out of the way, right? Like, this channel is about us exploring philosophy, psychology, and personal transformation. And so sometimes that means we're going to have to share ideas. And for me, sorting myself out includes telling you what I'm thinking and what I'm working on and what I believe and where my professional interests are. So I'm going to share ideas, but those ideas need not be a source of conflict, like Mercury so aptly points out. So
yeah, and I'm just sharing my ideas and the way I look at things, and I'm not even claiming to be right. I'm saying straight up, I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. This is the best way of being wrong that I've found so far. And I'm only saying this is the way I am. I'm not advising anyone else to be like me. Although sometimes if you ask me about something, like if there's a part of me or a way I'm looking at something that you want to experience or try out, then I will give advice on how to do it. But I'm never doing it because I think that's right for other people. It's only if they ask that of me. But I'm not here to say what's right or how anyone should live.
No, well, that's one of the things that I find so valuable about you is that you don't do that, and you're very much understanding of any position, and you're also very articulate in connecting different pieces of the puzzle together. So you create this bigger picture of the whole that allows us to coexist in harmony rather than in conflict. So I think that's one of your greatest strengths, and I'm glad that we have it on this channel. It's definitely irreplaceable. So what's that picture behind you, Mercury? Because Potato, one of our new listeners that we were talking about earlier, is here. Potato's here, and he's dropping hot comments. He's a prolific commenter. He wants to know what that picture behind you represents, which is funny because literally, and I'm not making this up, right before he asked, I was just thinking I've got to ask him about that picture. Nobody's ever asked him about that picture. So I don't know if y'all believe in synchronicity or something, but that was weird.
Okay, so this one?
Yeah.
I don't know if that gives people a better view. But anyway, this is a print done by Madame Talbot. She's an artist in America that does some very cool, fuck, I'm just going to bounce this here. Very cool art. And she also used to work with antiques and human remains, like antique bones and stuff. She would make curio exhibits and stuff. Way back at one point, I bought some, like that's just a poster, but I bought a bunch of her posters. And actually, yeah, she made this as well. This is an antique dental model. And so she used it all, and like even the felt behind it is antique. She antique sources everything and makes curios.
Wow.
I also have from her a human skull cap from like the 1600s. It was, oh wait, the question was about this. If people are curious about the skull, I'll get that after. So this is a plague doctor. So that's why you see the long beak and the outfit. The plague doctors would wear masks with a long beak that they would fill with like basically potpourri, something that smelled good because of the horrible stench everywhere they were going. And they would wear the goggles and the brimmed hat and all the clothing because like people were covered with bodily fluids that were infected. And so yeah, it's basically a protective suit that the plague doctors wore.
What's the piece called? One more time.
It says Der Dr. Schraub von Rom. And so I forget the guy's name, but it's a portrait of a specific plague doctor.
Okay. I was going to try to look it up, but I don't think I can spell that, so that's fine.
And yeah, and that artist is very interested in like European culture around the plagues and stuff like that. She's like, I don't think her store operates anymore, but she specialized in antiques, medical curiosities, sideshow stuff. She's the one who had started out Enigma's tattoos. People who know that freak, the Enigma, that his whole body is puzzle pieces. She's the one that did the first outline of those puzzle pieces. So I bought a bunch of her stuff back in 2009.
I found a picture because Potato helped me spell it. Potato is coming in with the clutch. That's great. Okay, here, check it out. Look at that. See that, Mark?
Yeah.
Cool. It's much easier to see. Yours looks like it has more stuff in the background, but
yeah, well, mine's a drawing she did. And so she's put a whole frame where there's skulls and skeletons and various things.
Right. That's really cool. It's fascinating.
And then
I'm going to stop sharing.
Talking about what's on screen, this coyote here, a friend of mine shot that when he was 16 and got it stuffed. And yeah, when his girlfriend moved in with him, she didn't like it, and he gave it to me. So that's a mounted coyote head, and it's a friend of mine, a farmer, when he was 16, shot it because it was interfering with the livestock, and he got the head mounted.
That's awesome. Colton says, have you guys had done any discussion about the upcoming debate between JBP and Zizek? I think we would love to have some coverage on that. I would love, and I can come do a podcast and discuss it, or I can come do a podcast and discuss it. And then a bunch of people just joined us. It looks like a few people joined us. So we covered where I went wrong on Gabor Maté, and I made some major and interesting mistakes in that video that I addressed. If you want to hear what I said about that, go ahead and go back to the beginning of this video if you're just joining us, and you'll get the full analysis, or you can look at it later. So there you go on that. We haven't done any discussion about the debate between Peterson and Zizek, and that's an interesting idea. And Timmy's here, my favorite troll of all time. Can we have a new video with epic clips, please? He's been on top of the clip trolling for weeks. It's actually quite impressive. So,
I hadn't noticed anything from him in a while. Maybe I just missed it.
He'll slide them in every so often. He's on top of but he seems to like us enough to keep coming back. So I'll view it as a form of twisted love. So what do you think about the Zizek thing?
Okay, so I've watched a couple things of Zizek. I'd never heard of him before there was first things popping up about them talking sometime. I find him very interesting, but I don't have my head wrapped around him yet. I don't understand him. So I'm very excited to see him and Peterson talk, because I've got a pretty good feeling for Peterson. I've watched a significant amount of his material. So since I'm able to step into Peterson's frame fairly easily, I'm looking forward to that conversation, because so far I've never seen anyone speak to Zizek that I knew that person. So I found, yeah, I've just never quite wrapped my head around his overall view, but I find him fascinating to listen to so far. I just haven't had time to listen to much yet. What about you? Are you familiar with his work?
No, I don't really find myself interested. Rob says Zizek is a provocateur. Colton says Zizek is a very complex thinker. He is obviously intelligent, but seems ultimately to not value human individual thought at all. It's interesting because he claims he's a Christian. That is weird. Well, Colton, if you want to come on and talk about it, then how could
he not value human thought at all? He is such a great thinker. Like, why is he talking to anyone? He obviously values at least his own.
Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, it's Zizek. Okay. Because Colton says because he's a collectivist communist, LOL. Okay, well, if you want to come on and talk about it, then that's no. He says that's not how you pronounce it. Zizek. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't. I'm not even really.
I don't know how to pronounce his name either. You don't need to know everything.
Okay, now he says Zizek. No, it's Zizek. Now he's. Oh my god! I just realized what he was doing to me. He's totally making me sound like an idiot. He's doing that on purpose. Man, that's hilarious. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'm glad that Rob's here. Why do you think Zizek's a provocateur? That's what I want to know. Rob, I don't know anything about it. So I don't have any idea what I'm talking about. Well, you are so innocent it hurts, said Timmy. Yeah, well, exactly, because Colton was just basically making me puppet those words, pronouncing them. I didn't realize until 5 minutes later that it was that he was trolling me. He's like, no, it's pronounced like this. No, it's pronounced like this. And I'm like, Zizek. And yeah, so that's funny. Timmy, I'm glad you're here, man. It's interesting to have your comments. So I don't know why I find it so funny. I just think it's hilarious. I don't know. Anything else you want to? I'm in Ryan's head, Colton says. I wasn't even trolling, and he thinks I was. I'm in your kitchen, bro. That's what he says. That's great. I'll take it in stride. It's fun. Anything else you want to talk about, Merc, before I send it?
No.
Well, I guess I'll read this comment. I watched him speak one time in Portland, Oregon on Halloween, and it gave me a near Satori experience. The level of his intelligence is incredible, yet he spends it comparing Pokemon with Adolf Hitler. Oh, wow. So you're saying he's a genius that's wasting his intelligence? Am I getting that right? Or am I off track there? Because that seems to be what you're saying to me. Fascinating. So it'll be interesting to see him talk with Peterson. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because I don't know what to make of Zizek yet, and I'm interested to learn more. Yeah, I find him fascinating. I don't have a grip of his overall views yet, but very interesting to talk to. And yeah, his idea that coffee without cream is different than coffee without milk. I'm still not sure I've totally wrapped my head around it, but there's definitely something to it. He's not just total, yeah, I just don't know what to make of him, but he's obviously brilliant.
Yeah, I have no idea I don't know. Anyways, everyone, I gotta go. Looks like the comments are starting to get contentious. So hey, I gotta go. I'm gonna go take the week off. Probably won't post anything unless I really feel like going on live. So I hope you all have an awesome week, and I'll see you next week. Timmy, go watch this whole video. I think it'll be insightful, and then you'll have more ammo to troll me with later. So it'll be fun. So go do your research. And Merc, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for understanding what I've been through and where I'm at now. All right. Anything else from you? All right.
No, that's it. Enjoy your week off. And yeah, I don't know if I will pop on live or not. I have no idea. Or I don't even know how much people want me to pop back on.
So, they do. They want to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
But I'm happy to hang out with people sometime. I don't know. I'll see what happens. But you definitely feel free. Take the week off. Relax.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk to Colton this week, I can put you two in touch. So, all right. See you, everyone. Yeah, I'll put you in touch. See ya.
All right, cool. Bye.